Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Architecture Social Show. I was joking with my guest here because it's been a little while since I've done one of these. I feel rusty, but that's okay. We will power through. The theme of today is important. Often I've had some really cool guests here, which are large architecture practices, medium architecture practices, but we have to remember the humble roots in the UK. Most of the architecture practices are small to medium size. And I was joking with my guest, how small is small? Well, I'm talking about maybe a few of you are thinking of running an architecture practice. Maybe some of you are running your own architecture practice. Maybe you're doing it yourself, or you have a team of one or two people. That is the bulk of architecture practices in the UK. And to talk about this, to bring me up to date with what it's like to run an architecture practice, I have not only an author who's written 2 books. I haven't even written 1 book. I have a bell around here somewhere, but if I had it, I would go ding, ding, ding. Because how do you make books? How do you run an architecture practice in the UK at the moment? So to unpack that, I should introduce my guest. And I have the fantastic Clare Nash with me. Clare, how are you? Are you okay?
Great, thank you. Thanks for that introduction.
I think I might have had 1 or 2 many coffees before coming on, but the show goes on. I'm quite excited. Clare, while we were getting to know each other before we started recording this, maybe some people in the audience haven't read your book yet or haven't found out about Clare Nash architecture yet. So can you quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Clare Nash and I've been running my practice for 14 years.
Cool.
I set up in the last recession with no clients, and I just started with postcards in shop and that kind of thing. We're now a team of 6. We were 9 for a while in the post-pandemic boom, but we've gone back to 6, which, to be honest, I prefer. It's a bit easier to manage.
Oh, bless you. We were a team of 6 at the Architecture Social as well. So maybe this will also be an impromptu coaching session for me because you've been doing it longer. You have to be a little bit crazy to be an employer in the current market because there's so much responsibility. And of course, we want to do it right. But maybe you can give me the journey. I love that. You mentioned about postcards, doing the business development. So it was just yourself at one point before getting to 6. I'm guessing, Clay. Do you want to run me through a little bit of that build up?
So it's just me for the first 3 years. And actually, I didn't want a team. I wasn't sure if I could manage people. I get really annoyed when people interrupt me. So I just thought I'd be a grumpy boss. And but I started blogging, and then I ended up with way too much work. Like I had 20 projects and it was just me. And the only route out of that was either disappoint clients or get some help. Yeah. So I started with my first employee because I was teaching at Oxford Brookes at the time, so it's quite easy to find a student that could work part-time, a Part 2 student, and it's better than bar work and good experience for them.
Yeah.
And that worked way better than I expected. So when she moved to Australia, I replaced her with 2 people, and then it just grew from there, really.
Wow. Okay. Fair play. So at first doing it yourself, but realizing that you can't do everything yourself and building it up. Maybe we can set the scene on the type of projects you do as well. Meanwhile, I'll bring up your website in the background so people can get a flavor, if that's okay as well.
Yeah. So we do barn conversions. That's mainly what we're known for, but also eco homes. And for years, I've had quite a sort of geeky eco blog, which, people would either find me via those or if they just wanted a kind of not bog standard, but just, straight normal architect, then they'd come in the front end. And then I brought the eco stuff gradually more to the forefront. More basically after Greta started doing her stuff and people got it a bit more.
Oh, well, it's anything but bog standard, I think, Claire. It's actually really nice stuff. I'm just going to bring through a few as well. I was joking again before we recorded, isn't it? I always wanted a barn conversion. However, now I'm in central London. But maybe what's the different type of approach to doing a barn conversion compared to new buildings? I guess you're dealing with existing buildings a lot then, Claire? Is that what you do? A lot of refurbishments, additions, and all that kind of stuff then?
Yeah, exactly. And when I was, when I first started out, I did interior architecture as a degree.
Oh, really?
Mainly because I thought I wouldn't last 7 years, because I tend to get bored of things quite easily. And then I just don't apply myself. But I got really into it and then decided to switch later on. But interior architecture is literally refurbishment of buildings. It's not cushions and curtains and stuff. So I feel like that was quite a good start, focusing on that. But we do new builds now, self builds, small developments for small developers as well. But I definitely started out with the turning barns into homes thing.
Oh, fair enough. I think it looks really good. I mean, we can go back to it as well. But perhaps can you paint a picture? Because at first, a lot of people, I imagine, they think having your own architecture practice, it's the dream. It's going to be easy. However, we know as both business owners, it's quite tricky, isn't it? There's lots of different things going on. And one of the things, and we'll talk about your books again in a little bit, but what is it like then running an architecture practice? It's not 9 to 5 at the start, surely, is it, Claire?
Yeah.
It's all encompassed. You're going for it, right? I mean, what was your experience?
Yeah, well, I think most people would probably start with some clients, like they'd leave their job with clients in place, because it was a recession that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So in the early days, I had another job as a dinner lady, essentially, to try and bring money in.
Did you have a bell and everything? Sorry, I am interrupting you, but you
I
did
didn't have
dinner
a bell,
lady.
but it was good fun. It was really social, and I liked the other people I worked with. So that got me out of the house and socializing things while I was building it up in the background. And then eventually I got too busy and had to give that up. But yeah, it definitely isn't easy. Like first you have to get around the thing of, am I charging enough, and all the money mindset stuff. And then later on, when you employ people, cash flow is a major issue, because payroll's the same every month, but projects go up and down. It's just the nature of architecture.
Oh, I've been there before. If you'll allow me to share for a minute, I had exactly the same thing where we had a flurry of projects come later on, and I knew they were coming, but there was 1 or 2 quiet, painful months. And you're right, cash flow is tricky. And then when you get those projects in, the way it tends to work in my business, maybe it's the same for you, so you send an invoice for a period of work, and then the client will pay 30 days after. Sometimes they don't pay. Then you're chasing them, Claire, isn't it? And that puts this anxiety on you, because you're right, the payroll has to go out the same day. So, I mean, how do you even begin to start solving these problems, Claire, and making life easier for cash flow?
Yeah, the bit cash flow, I don't think you can completely solve it, purely because there are so many delays that are out of our control. Yep. It's not like, I don't know, say being an accountant, where the only delays really are caused by HMRC or your clients. For us, you know, it's everyone, and mainly planning, but lots of other things as well. So it's unpredictable, but I found the best thing to really mitigate it is to charge 50% upfront for every stage. Because then you're not working in debt. You're not in debt straight away. You've got money in the bank to fund and resource the project. And then there's kind of a time at some point in the middle when you kind of reach break-even point, and then you're nearly finished, and then you charge again.
Nice.
So it just mitigates that. And also it, right at the beginning, it gives you confidence that people are going to pay, because they have to pay to start the project, and then they have to pay to get to the next stage. And so it's really, you know, it's kind of basically they just have to pay. And then if you if they you know, at the end, if they don't pay the second half, at least you got the first half. Whereas there are plenty of people who've been in the position where they've only realized the client's not going to pay right at the end, and they've lost all of that time, and then they have to chase them in the small claims court or whatever, and nobody wants to do that. So if you establish early on that they will pay, that really helps with the anxiety
I
of being a business owner.
I can imagine that might be a new concept for many people, because am I wrong in thinking, Claire, that the norm is to charge once the work's done at the end 100%? Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. And what I can imagine is there's this mental block that architects put in their heads, because now this 50% upfront concept, that's probably to some people revolutionary new concept. But then do we as humans sometimes put barriers of why we shouldn't do that? So if you explain that to some other architects, do you find sometimes they go, oh no, I can't do that, I don't think my clients would like me to do that, or I won't ask, that seems rude, that's not what's done?
Yeah, I felt exactly like that. I mean, for years I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I just got really paid off with it, and I thought, why do they get I mean, like here by that point I've been running a business for a few years, and I was like, I'm an established business, I'm on Companies House and all that stuff, and they are just a nobody in comparison, a complete unknown entity. So why should I take all the risk? It makes no sense, because I'm, for them, I'm the least risky thing. But I'm by punting on them and not charging them a deposit, I'm taking a huge gamble because I don't know them.
Yeah, that's true. It begs the question why people don't do it more at the start, doesn't it? And what did you find the first time you asked? Were you nervous for doing it, but then the client agreed, and then you were like, oh, relief? Is that right?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous about it. But it's kind of, you hit a wall. It's like, what are the consequences of not doing it? The consequences are more stress, more anxiety, more worrying about cash flow. The consequences of doing it are maybe a slightly embarrassing conversation at the worst. Or you find out they don't want to do that, in which case not a good client anyway. And I never had a no, or why do you do that, or nobody's ever queried it. It's really funny. So there was all that kind of mental barrier, and for the client is like, yeah, okay.
No, it's I find this is really interesting, actually. I think this would be really valuable for business owners, because we put these objections in our head. I know I said that before, but it is so true. I do it the same in business all the time, and you have to remind myself not to do it. And the other bit that you mentioned there is that awkward conversation, especially when I started in business. Rather than having the conversation, I would find myself getting stressed, Claire, about imagining what was said and not, or thinking, oh, maybe they're going to do this and that. Do you find that over time, having these awkward conversations over and over makes them easier as you go in business, Claire?
Yeah, and it helps. I think the first time you do an awkward conversation, it's helpful to have a bit of a script in your head and to practice some of it, and practice. If you're worried about it, like, practice saying some of it with conviction, because confidence just wins on difficult conversations. So over time, it's become easier, mainly because I'm more confident about why I'm doing stuff, because it works, and I know my process better than they do. So it's quite easy to, But at the beginning, you have zero confidence. I mean, I'd never done extensions before, because I'd been working on bigger, like, school projects and prisons and healthcare and stuff, like, not related at all. So it took a while for me to not believe. I knew I could do it. It's just, if you haven't done a particular thing before, it's really hard to stand there and be like, yeah, you do it like this. Because so, whereas now I've done lots of barn conversions, I feel really confident. I know what I'm doing with the barn conversion, and so that comes across. Without me having to put anything on.
No, and I appreciate that. I tell you, I felt, especially when we set up our own business, I don't know how you felt, however, the first invoice, you almost send it, you got your zero, and I almost felt like, not a fraud, imposter syndrome. I was like, oh, you're gonna send an invoice, I'm charging for it. Ooh. And it's funny now, when you're at invoice like number 300, 400, you just send them out. You're like, quick, I got the payroll, let's go. Whoops, slight error. Don't matter. Check it. Credit control and chasing debt as well, Claire. Did you also feel like the first time it's quite a weird situation where your client, which you look up to, you're like, we have an overdue invoice. I mean, what's your experiences on both of those two awkward points?
Yeah, I get a bit miffed actually, because I think it's quite rude not to pay an invoice on time. And I get that sometimes people go away and they forget about stuff. That's fine. But in which case they just need a reminder, fine. But if it's more than that, then I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm a small business here. And I feel like there's sort of mixed values sometimes. But on the whole, generally people pay on time, and it's just like a forgetful thing or something.
Yeah. I've noticed as well, little insider tip maybe to the audience, that actually reminding companies that you're a small enterprise has been useful for me. Saying we're a boutique recruitment agency with a team. These invoices are very important. That reminder sometimes has been really helpful. That's what I found too. But it's getting over that imposter syndrome, that it's okay to chase a debt. I found really interesting. Maybe
my friend had when it was just her, she had a pretend chap she called Bill, who did all the invoicing and all of the chasing, and all of the tricky emails and stuff. Obviously, he never made a phone call because he didn't exist, but she found that really helpful as a compartmentalization thing. That, like, she put her hat on and she could pretend to be Bill then, and then you get over your, like, oh, people aren't going to like me because I'm asking them for money sort of stuff.
It's a good idea, and I'll confess, for the first year of our business, the account email was in my partner in real life's name, and then it's the same thing. They call up and go, "Oh, Philippe's not here, but I'll take the call. What's happening? Oh, okay, get invite. Okay, can we sort it out?" So yes, I've even done that. It does help, because it is hard, isn't it? If you're client facing and you've got to ask for money, I completely agree with you. It's well within our rights. We are doing. It's getting over that first, isn't it? And do you find in architecture as well? I wonder if this comes from architecture. I have found, especially working when you've got a prestigious client or a good opportunity, or for example, if I'm working with a famous client, I found that initially I would be enamored, Claire. I'd be like, oh, I'm so lucky to work with them. And it was way harder for me to do the stuff that I would normally do.
Yeah. I've had a bit of that as well. A bit. It's like, I've never worked with anyone famous, but I've been a bit starstruck in, like, I think they're really impressive business people or something. And also, like, because our incomes are wildly different. I work with people who have got plenty of money to fund really good projects, and I'm not in that category. I'm doing pretty well, but I'm not in the millionaire category. So I had to kind of get over that as well. Even at one point, I had like a stupid thing in my head where I thought rich people were automatically bad, which is just total rubbish, because you don't change your personality if you become rich. You're just the same person with more money. And I actually found out kind of like a backwards way that some of my clients were millionaires. I was like, oh, right, that lovely person over there is a millionaire. Because it wasn't really obvious until, like, I put stuff together in my head. I was like, oh yeah. But because I care about the person, not the money, but the money pays for the project, and those are the projects I want to do. And it means we can we're not scratching around on small fees. We can, you've got work booked in and it's enough to keep the practice running, and you can do a good job with that money, rather than always scraping the barrel and just about paying your bills and there's nothing left. And
same. sometimes I lean into the concept to talk about money. One, because I think another, maybe it's a less of an architecture thing, but I think especially how we're all brought up in the UK, it seemed bad to talk about money. So we don't talk about salaries, we don't talk about fees, and then all the problems come from low fees. Low fees will mean an under-resourced projects. You can't do nice stuff with the staff. You can't do this salary increases, which are, you talk about inflation. Yes, we would love to pay staff salaries to inflation, but are we inflating the fees? And so I think it's a very good thing to do. I was going to ask one more question around that topic of when you're starstruck by a client or something, because have you found, Claire, maybe less on the revenue side, but you're doing these beautiful barns. Have you found sometimes when you get a charismatic client or you're like, wow, super cool client, then maybe they have some design decisions that they're passionate about, and you're in your head, you're going, oh, everything against my grain is telling me we should do it another way, but it's more challenging to say that than perhaps with another client where it was more of a neutral approach at the start? Have you ever found that?
I haven't really. Mainly, I find we're quite aligned in terms of taste.
Cool.
I guess because they see stuff on my website and like, I like that. I don't like that, but I like that. So I see what she's done there. Okay, let's go and work with her. And some people have approached me like that. They're like, I drove past this building that you did. I don't actually like it, but I can see what you did. So can you do something similar over here using those same kind of that framework? But I have pointed out stuff quite regularly, like you're giving your dogs the best view and things like that, like very practical things which aren't subjective. Because I find that's quite, you're just giving them facts. It doesn't have to be emotional then. And I'm also not that bothered. I'm not an architect that cares about shadow gaps or what skirting board they're going to choose. I just I'm not a detail person. I'm more of the overall kind of thing. As long as the spaces are working, the light's good, and it feels happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, fair enough. I have brought up your website, what you're talking, not only because the projects are really cool and they are beautiful and makes me want another barn. I want a barn conversion, but we touched upon websites there because that's interesting. So is the website the portal to your projects? As a small business owner, everything falls on our lap, Claire, from doing the payroll to the website. How have you found marketing the website and all that stuff? Has it been then super important for you to get right, or a bit of a pain in the bum sometimes? What's your feelings on how to promote yourself to the wider architecture clients out there?
I really like marketing. What I realized at the beginning, I started going to business networking events and listening to other business owners and being like, oh, this marketing thing sounds fun and quite useful because it means I can attract the right clients, and I can move away from extensions, some of which I'm enjoying and some of which I'm not. And I could see that there was more interest, lots of interesting work out there that I wasn't getting because I wasn't demonstrating it. So I started blogging about barns, and then people, because I'd just got a permission, so I wrote about how I'd done that, and then that attracted people, and they rang up like 3 months later saying, you're obviously the expert on barns. And I've thought to myself, I've only done one, but I'm quite happy to be the expert. And it grew from there. And that blogging was really efficient at getting me the right clients. I also have an ebook download so that I get people on my email list who are my ideal client. So I keep writing to them so that, in the hope that when they have a project, they'll remember me, because I keep popping into their inbox with useful stuff for their project. And then on the website, it's kind of it's important for me to kind of show enough about our personality so that people are drawn to working with us because they've got the same values and the same things that they care about, because then they will be great to work with. That's what I want. I want to like a magnet, pull those people to me rather than me going out to try and find them.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. So it's a lot of work on that front. And also sometimes, Claire, I've heard sometimes people go, and I do it too sometimes. We're busy running the business and I'm doing this, doing that. I'm working in the business, sometimes not working on the business, which was a concept I never heard of before. But marketing, sometimes I feel like it's easy to put it off. Oh, but it's also so important. Do you still believe that constant marketing is so important to keep getting work coming in?
Yeah, it is. And I suppose it is difficult because like the client work is urgent because that pays your bills. You got to get the stuff out the door, otherwise you can't invoice.
Yeah.
But what I found is having either like a daily thing where you do a small task each day that's heading towards a goal, or for quite a few years now, I've had marketing Mondays because I find people don't bother me too much on a Monday, but they do on a Tuesday. And so it gives me a bit of quiet time to just crack on with that. And I don't feel under pressure because people aren't ringing me up and saying, where's this thing? Or what are we doing about that? Yeah, so that's where I get the consistency. But every so often I'll do a strategy of like, this is what I need to do to get to X. And then I'll split it up into segments so that I can actually get it done. But that's not to say it's perfect. Like I get overwhelmed and swamped in architecture. They're like, oh, crikey, I haven't done anything for 2 weeks or whatever. And then I have to get back onto it again. But in principle, it does work.
Yeah.
And I don't find that Monday spent doing mostly marketing and business stuff has affected the profit at all in a negative way, because I'm not doing the architecture as much. In fact, I think it's better because it's got me further.
Yeah. And I know it sounds, some people might laugh when I say this, but I used to be quite nervous about public speaking or doing stuff online. I know I'm chatting all over LinkedIn now, but I do speak to a lot of people, business owners in architecture. We did joke when I said, how have you written so many books? But everyone has different sets of skills and not everyone enjoys presenting and not everyone feels comfortable marketing. They might be shy, they might be embarrassed. Do you have any advice, Claire, for people getting out of their shells and getting more and more used to being that outward facing client marketing role within their own business?
Yeah, well, I'm really shy and a massive introvert, to just put a big caveat on it, well, like a disclaimer on it or something. But so if I can do it, everyone else can definitely do it. But I would say that my strengths are definitely ideas, marketing, that sort of thing. I'm not a detailed person, so that helps for sure. And then I find it quite intimidating going to a business networking thing, and then also really time inefficient in terms of how do I know who to speak to? I mean, I enjoyed them from like it's nice to have a chat with other business owners' perspective, and the speaker, you'll learn something from them. But in terms of actually getting work, it's way better to be on the stage, because then the whole room sees you and they come to you if you're the right person for them, or if you've got something that they want. So that saves you a hell of a lot of time. And and people can remember that like 2 years later, they'll be like, oh, I remember seeing you at this thing because you did a talk and now I'm ready to do something. So it's really impactful. And then years and years ago, when I was at uni and you have to do your presentations about your project, I would sweat for weeks beforehand. I was absolutely terrified. And then it was even worse when somebody, the tutor or something, would ask me questions about it. It's like, oh, don't ask me questions. That means I have to stay here longer. I hated it so much. And then, but when I did my final project, I was so excited about it that I forgot about everybody else and just talked about it. And I thought, oh, that's it. That's what it is. You just got to be interested in what you're talking about. And then you forget, it's not to say I'm not nervous. I am, but I'm not sweating. I I'm literally nervous just before I get up, kind of thing. And if I didn't have that, that'd be a bit weird, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's always a challenge, but then the tip that I have is that I heard online, when you speak at a crowd, if you just look at the crowd, it can be overwhelming. However, if you lock eyes on one person, it's easier.
Yeah.
Sometimes I giggle in my head because it feels like you're not torturing that person, but you can see them looking, and some people are like, but it's just, it breaks it down, doesn't it? Because then you're having it's like you're having a conversation with one-on-one. You're speaking to this person, you're speaking to that, and then also the other thing, even like now, before you go on stage, the number one thing you're thinking is, oh gosh, how long is it going to be? But when you're presenting, it just kind of flies because you're in the zone. I don't know. Do you have the same thing?
Yeah. Some talks are definitely harder than others. I find architecture talks, like I did a vernacular talk a while ago, that was harder because there's more stuff to remember, like facts and things. Whereas when I do business talks, it all just comes from me and how I feel and what's in my head and stuff. So those ones flow the easiest by far. So but they're both, all types are still worth doing, but you definitely have to be interested in what you're talking about. You can't just stand up and talk about anything. No. I think personally, but unless you want to train as a personal speaker. But yeah, from the marketing side and getting brave on social media, I remember doing my first Twitter post years and years ago, and then expected lots of trolls to appear and say all sorts of horrible things about whatever I'd put out there. But at the time, it was just a really nice community on there. And I'm finding the same on LinkedIn now. I don't bother with Twitter. I know it's X, but I don't bother with that anymore because it's become too political, and I don't think my ideal client is there that much, really. But I like LinkedIn. It's a nice place to hang out. And I've never had anyone say horrible stuff. Sometimes friendly criticism, which is welcome.
Yeah.
And the same on Instagram. I just think we're quite lucky. The architecture world's quite nice in general.
Yeah.
The most criticism you might get, which I have had, is occasionally I've put up a complicated eco detail or something like, this is work in progress, and discuss it or something, and then somebody might go, why have you done it like that, and things. And if I was sensitive, I might be like, ooh. But I just think it's pointless being like that, because they don't mean it personally. It's like they're trying to be helpful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I agree that LinkedIn, especially business to business, is great. And I think that as well, for example, you're right, business is a bit of free flowing. We both have our own little businesses. I'm making mistakes all the time, and that's where I enjoy it. And I think it can get lonely sometimes when you run a business, isn't it? So I do think that speaking with other people on LinkedIn, or having those conversations about cash flow and finding your own network, is really, really important. It was interesting you mentioned Instagram, because I can see that being good for clients as well, but also and this is me being naive, but do you find like you would find sometimes some potential clients maybe in Facebook groups in the local area? And you mentioned earlier like door-to-door knocking. Have you found that being present physically as well as online has been good then, Clare?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd say Instagram, I do get clients from there, but it's more of a backup, because you need the 7 points of people getting to know you.
Right.
And clients have said to me that sometimes they've met me somewhere, either in real life or they've seen me online, and then they stalk me on Instagram. That's their words for it, for a while. Yeah. Or they might sign up to my newsletter list. So that's good. But one of my best places to find clients has been gardening club.
Yeah.
Which is real life. And I just go because I like gardening. Because people get to know you slowly, and then at some point they're like, oh, I've got a project, and they think of me first because I'm always at gardening club.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because you can get sucked into the online world, which is important, but the real life world is where stuff like that happens. And I think that as well, remember in the old days, people used to get sales calls all the time on the phone. It's less now, but that means there's an opportunity to speak on the phone, go to these events. I met another interior designer, Claire, where what would happen is she signed up to a golf club in the local area. She didn't have a partner to play golf, but she just went there. And what happened is all the gentlemen were playing golf and the wives were in the club enjoying themselves, relaxing. And she picked up all the clients there because they were like, oh, yeah, I want a refurb and all this stuff. Is that what you do? Oh, come down and have a look. And that's how she got work, just being present on a Saturday and Sunday and enjoying the club, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you do that you enjoy. I mean, that's the thing with you sort of feel like you have to go to a certain place because it's business networking and you should do that. But you have to be quite careful about wasting time unless you know there's specific people there that you want to talk to. Whereas on the other hand, you can go like me going to gardening club. I go there because I enjoy it. I don't go there to find work. Work has just come as a very nice extra.
Yeah. Well, that's what I read a story about another architect's practice in London where he was cycling to Mippin and the gentleman cycled to Mippin and the other cyclist happened to be a developer. And there you go. A project came out of it. It does happen. The other thing that you mentioned before we were doing this, which I thought was really important, is you mentioned profits by doing niches or riches in niches, as I like to call it. I know it isn't that niches, but you get what I mean. I agree. I think it's so important. Some people think you should be a generalist. I mean, what would you say to them?
I just think if you're thinking about it from the client perspective, they're going online with a specific project in mind. If they come onto your website and it's like, oh, I'll do a bit of this, bit of that, bit of something else, it's hard for them to identify or know that they're in the right place.
Yeah.
Whereas by being really niche down, and mine's really, I just put everything into barns and eco is kind of secondary behind it. But I still get plenty of people asking about extensions and all kinds of other projects because they like the general ethos of it. And the other thing is when you're really focused on a niche, you become really confident about it and that shines through, which attracts other people, whether they're actually that niche or not, but they're still the ideal client, the person you want to work with. Yeah. So I've attracted developers because they're not looking to live in those homes that I create. They want to sell those homes and they like the values and so on. So it's still like I wasn't necessarily thinking this is aimed at developers when I was writing it. I was just thinking this is my ideal client. I'm writing to them. And yet also the other thing is like small businesses don't have massive marketing budgets. So people like Apple or Domino's or McDonald's or whatever, they do it by mass marketing and they're on your telly every night. DFS always has a sale. Everybody knows this because it's on your telly every night and that is proper mass marketing. But those budgets are enormous. So they don't have a niche. It's like a sofa is for everybody. But whereas if you have a niche, you can be very specialized and specific with your marketing and it hits a smaller proportion of people, but those people are your ideal client.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the fact that you've said that because I think that when we're building online platforms, you can get caught up in big numbers. I want big numbers, big followings. However, I also feel the same. I would rather 100 followers where 10 of them will transact with me compared to 100,000 that are transient, not purchasing or whatever. I mean, it's so important, isn't it? As a business owner, that you engage with people that are going to use your services, right?
Yeah, and that you're not wasting time. Like you can fart about like just spitting stuff out on social media, and if you don't know who you're aiming that at and you don't know who you're writing to, then it won't do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A
lot of people are afraid of losing their existing bread and butter by niching, and I don't think that happens because from my experience, it hasn't happened, and from what I know from other businesses that have done it as well, it definitely hasn't happened. It's just strengthened the brand.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I the only thing that I've noticed, and I want to get your thoughts on this, I believe that there are riches and niches. However, let's pretend I specialize in a sector and that sector's not doing strong in the market. It almost feels better to be a generalist. What would your advice be in that scenario, Claire? Is it then more about pivoting as quick as possible? Or do you think you could specialize in 2 or 3 key things rather than one? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. So without diluting, so focus on one niche, definitely get that really good. And you'll find other stuff comes in anyway that isn't directly that, but they like your stuff, your style, the way you do things. They're your ideal client, even if it's a different sector. But then, so for the trouble with like the domestic market particularly is it can be quite fickle, whereas commercial developers will just keep going through a recession because they see the long game. Yeah. Whereas homeowners are like, oh, I don't need to borrow money at the moment, so I won't. It's like it's a non-essential. And architecture for most people is a non-essential. It's not like a lawyer or a doctor or something where you have to pay the money because it's essential. But so it is good to have another sector, and that's why I diversified into garden design as well, because it reinforces what I already do. Existing clients want it. It's an added extra for developers, and it fills in gaps.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. And what the last bit on that point, because sometimes they think, say now we went all in on barns, and let's just pretend that barns were out of trend or they were normal. I know that's not the case. I'm being dramatic. Do you think that the right thing then is to pivot quickly in business? Is what I'm trying to get at. How important is it to adapt? Or do you think that sometimes it can be at the detriment to just go, nope, let's keep going, it will be okay? Or do you think in business you have to pivot?
You have to pivot, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're consistently listening to what your ideal client wants, that should be viable. So you're not just rigidly staying in, this is what I want to do, I'm going to stay doing this. You're actually listening to the market and finding out what they want and adapting to provide that. I think that's how you always stay ahead. And looking at future trends, like using that pestle analysis thing and seeing how that might affect your business in the future and planning for that and strategizing so that you've got plan Bs and things in the wings, which would, I mean, the worst case scenario is you've got an extra thing you can offer. That's it.
It makes complete sense. Thank you, because I just wanted to labor that, because there's no point going down with the ship, isn't it? We have to keep moving. We have to be fluid. So I really appreciate you reiterating that. Now, there's the books. Are we going to get into that? But just before we do the books as well, you have a mentoring group. What's all that about? I love it. Tell me. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's called The Business Space, and it's for architectural business owners to come together once a month. We have a topic each month, and then there's a WhatsApp group as well.
Oh, really?
Where we just help each other on the business side and just try and get better at it and support each other. Because it's like you said earlier, you're on your own. Even if you've got a team like I have, I still have separate business mentors and business groups and things that help me with that, because you need people to talk to about it. But and it's nice that we're all architect in the architecture world, because we have similar problems. Not to say that other businesses don't have the same problems, but it's quite helpful where you don't have to explain how, the problems with planning delays or something. Everybody just knows this, so we just talk about the business related to that kind of thing. But I'm very strict. I don't let everybody go into moaning about planners. We stick to business, because that's the whole point, is making space to work on your business.
That's very cool. And was there a temptation at the start? Do you find some people are wary? I found that because if there's competing other businesses similar to the social, at first they'd be like, oh, do you really want to speak to a competitor? But then actually, very rarely you even bump into each other on this stuff. But the information is more valuable than being all secretive or worried. Did you find that sometimes, Claire, people are a bit wary and then they calm down?
Yeah, there was a bit of apprehension about that before people joined the group. As it happens, everybody's so spread out nationally that it's not an issue from that perspective. But I also, like, I mentor people who are technically my competitors, and it doesn't bother me at all, because I just think we're different personalities. Yeah. We're offering slightly different things, albeit, yeah, we both do barn conversions or something in a similar area, but people choose people, and their ideal client isn't necessarily my ideal client. So I just don't worry about it. I just think what we're doing is helping each other to get better at business, which is better for the industry as a whole anyway. If we all get better, then it's better for everyone.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I am guilty of at the start as well. I used to get weary about even adding my competitors on LinkedIn. It's a very recruitment thing to go like, oh, can't get them in. They're going to look at what we do. And now it's the opposite. I'm like, yeah, come on in. Who cares? Let's have a chat about it. And I find it actually better. So it's great that you're doing that with the groups. Now, the bit that I joked about at the start, you have written 2 books. In my head, with my brain, that's crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you even do it? So maybe I'll bring them up on the screen. So if I look like I'm doing things in the background, I'll get them up now. But maybe you can tell us about the 2 books while I faff around, Claire, if that's cool.
Well, the first one I wrote because I was just so fed up of the red brick box on the edge of every single town and city. And I just thought the Brits are known for really cool fashion and music, and like all their regional accents are good as well. Whereas the housing was just the same boring box everywhere. It's just so depressing that here we are with this creative talent in this country, and that's what we get. So this is supposed to be the antidote to that.
Right.
And it's based on my dissertation that I did. But I just thought it's a shame if only master's students read it. And because it's useful for lots of people who wouldn't necessarily be in Oxford Brookes Library. So I just approached Reba Publishing, and then I was really surprised when they said yes, and can you add some more case studies, bringing it more UK centric and so on. So then I had to do it. And it was so fun. I just loved it, going to all those different housing schemes. I literally went door to door and asking them how they liked their home, the people that lived in it, so that I got real user feedback rather than just the architects or the housing associations or whatever saying, yay, it's great. So it really reinforced it. So it was good from one perspective, in that there was loads of research that I then put into my own work and gave me lots of confidence that it definitely worked in practice. And but also it just raised my profile. So clients, it gave me extra kudos. It definitely led to me being able to charge higher fees.
Wow, really? Wow. I agree, because you're an author, aren't you? As you're respected, and that carries a lot of weight, and it was a lot of work. But your fees went up. That's great. Yeah. And you deserve it. Brilliant.
Yeah. I'd say it was a combination of me feeling like I had more to offer.
Yeah.
As well as clients seeing that, because, that extra kudos. And I think it also helped it being Reba Publishing, because that's like an extra boost to the brand, I suppose.
Yeah. Can I ask, what is the process of even writing a book like, Claire? I mean, how do you start, get it going, in the middle of the end? What's the process like of writing a book?
So first I have an idea, and then I decide if it's got enough, if I'm passionate enough about it. Could I stand, because the editing process is boring and tough and lengthy, and you've got to be able to get through that. the first part is fun because it's all research, and then you're like writing excitedly about all the things. So it's like you have an idea, you write a proposal, you send it to the publishers, they say yes or yes, but with these tweaks, or just no, and then you refine it. And you get a lot more if you go to a conventional publisher. You get a lot more help with all that setup and everything, and content and how to organize it and all that sort of stuff. And then they have professional editors that help you as well. I mean, there are 3 sets of editors on that first book because they all have different specialisms.
Wow.
But if you self-publish, you make more money and you can do more with it and you have more rights. But I wanted that kudos of having a proper publisher behind it.
Yeah.
Plus, I learned such a lot.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Very cool. So this tends to be more on an architecture theme, vernacular design, yet your second book is more introspective on the profession. Is that correct then, Clare?
Yeah. I just, that one was like, I couldn't, it was a combination of things. I just had, I couldn't find anything on like running a business with a baby because I really didn't have any maternity leave. It was like 3 weeks because I couldn't. And there was nothing about that. There was nothing about all the problems I had when I was setting up, like cash flow issues, what fees to charge, what systems to create, how to market from a small practice perspective. And like, as good as the Reba business books are, they're quite dry. And I wanted to add a more human aspect to it. Like the emotional side, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also to demonstrate that it is possible. You can have a really nice practice doing work you really like, working fewer hours. Like I work 30-hour weeks and I make decent money on that. And whereas the common theme is way more depressing than that. It's like you have to work 80-hour weeks and you don't get much money for it. So why bother? It has to be a vocation. You're a starving artist kind of thing. And I just reject that.
Good for you. I'm impressed. Just a side thing, I could just about me. I tend to listen to more audiobooks. Have you got one, or you plan to do one then, Clare?
No, I think both of them are available as an ebook. But yeah, okay. I also listen to audiobooks. I don't know. Nobody's suggested it.
That's all right. Down the line. No, it's just an idea because I would love to listen to this on my commute. But actually, I don't want to add more work to your workload. So just an idea for down that you go, oh, do you know what? We could do that because I think it would be really nice. And you're right. I've never ever found a book like this on the business of architecture. There's one I think that's written by Gensler, but that is, or the art of Gensler, but that's a huge beast. It's a different thing, and that's great. So we're not having a go, but this is a different book. And I also think as well, running a practice in the UK has a whole different set of obstacles, problems, challenges, adventures, highs and lows than just anywhere else in the world because we have our own planning system and everything. So it's so cool that you have that here. And so people can buy the books where on the Reba website?
Yeah, or any online book shop will have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the major ones.
I've got 1 or 2 more questions before we wind down, and I let you go back because I know I'm pushing it. I'm getting the most out of my hour, but it just interests me. Now, everyone talks about artificial intelligence. I use it quite a bit in my business more at the moment on data entry. I don't use it for anything such as design output or on the website or anything yet. I could see how that might go into it. But also we were just talking about writing a book. And I do use it as a bouncing board for a lot of things, especially social media and marketing. Not fully comfortable yet letting it all go out, but I found it quite useful. I mean, what's your thoughts on this emergent technology when it comes to the business, but also, do you think it could have aided or helped you write in the book, or do you share the worries that it might even start replacing stuff like writing a book?
I'm not worried about it replacing it.
No,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, but it's definitely a useful tool. I've used it just recently for like repurposing content. So I can like give it a post that I've written and say, write a blog based on this post in my style. And then I'll obviously edit it, but it's great because I haven't, it shaves a good hour off the work for sure.
Yeah.
So
And
that's really helpful.
Yeah. And if you, Magic Wand world, if we were to go back and you were writing these books again, do you think you would have saved more time, Claire, in the process?
Yeah, possibly. I quite enjoy writing, and I feel like stuff just kind of comes up while I'm doing it. There's like more stuff that comes up and things I would put in that AI doesn't know me well enough yet to be able to do that, because it's quite spontaneous. And sometimes even I'm like, where did that come from? Like, I can't tell AI to know something that I don't myself already know, that I'm going to spit out. Yeah, but it's a really useful tool, and I really look forward to it making some of the boring architecture tasks go away. Like it did, not it, but technology made door schedules a thing of the past, which was a massive relief for me. I can't stand data entry. It's incredibly boring. I had a job once where that was my job for 2 weeks, and they asked me to stay on, and I couldn't stand it. I needed the money, but I just could not stand it. And then the second doing that, utterly mindless, horrible, boring work. And I'm sure other people with different brains to mine, it's fine, but for me, it's horrendous. So anything that it gets that will take away that kind of stuff. And I did used to say years ago when I was doing door schedules, I was like, computer could do this better than me, and it can. It totally can, and it doesn't make errors like I did.
I did the same. I remember late night getting the GIA and NIA on a deadline wrong. It's just because I'm tired. Who cares? I agree with you. So what a refreshing take to hear. The last question I had for me, I'm at the time of recording this, we're mid-March 2025. I mean, what's your sentimentality towards the future of architecture in the short term, medium, the long term? Do you feel positive at the moment, Claire?
Yeah, I do. I feel really positive. I think, and like my son is 7, and he'll be going into a completely different world of work. But I feel like the things I already know about being creative and innovative, thinking, approaching things differently, not just accepting traditional ways of doing stuff, being like, does this actually serve me or my clients or whatever, and questioning things. Those are all useful skills. And then empathy, all the stuff that AI can't do, you learn in architecture school. Albeit door schedules will be a thing of the past, but great. But all the sort of top level skills, we'll still need those. So we're in a great position for that. I'm not worried about it at all.
No, me too. I think it will be an enabler to do more stuff. I really, really do. I just cannot for the life of me just see it replacing the architecture industry whatsoever. I mean, maybe the part one of me years ago, you still need a part one, but I remember spending 2 weeks, Claire, on a visualization and getting it perfect, and the director saying fine, and now it's like boom, change the sky, done. So I think that task of me would have been changed, but you always need someone to do bits and bobs and client-facing things. You in the garden centre, bringing in the project, just cannot be replaced.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Cool. I think what a nice note to end the podcast on. I mean, I've really enjoyed this. First of all, thank you for being so honest about what it's like to run a business and sharing some of the secret sources of pushing through it. I love running a business. I always joke that you have to be crazy to run a business. because it's hard.
Yeah.
And you are responsible for people, but that's okay. We can do it the right way. But hopefully this inspires a few people. If, Claire, that they've enjoyed this and maybe they want to reach out to you even for a project, but maybe even if they want to be part of the mentoring group or just want to say hello, how do they find you online?
I'd connect with me on LinkedIn and just DM me. Yeah, that was probably the easiest bit. Or go on the website. There's an email on there that will come through to me eventually.
Oh, brilliant. I'll bring up the website one last time. And so for anyone that's enjoyed this, or maybe if you're listening, if you're watching, you saw the website earlier, but if you're listening, it is www.clare, C-L-A-R-E, Nash architecture.co.uk. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Clare, and to Claire's friends who I bumped into at a Smashing Pumpkin gig. You bouldered into my life and you mentioned your super cool architecture friend, and now we've got the podcast. So I will see you at the next Smashing Pumpkins gig. What's his name again, Clare? Remind me.
Andy.
Andy. That's right. Andy, in my head, you are forever Billy Corgan or Smashing Pumpkins. That is who you are. Thank you so much again, Clare. And to you in the audience, thank you for being here. I hope you thought this was useful. Do get in contact with Clare, and more content coming soon. I've started recording things again. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the live stream here. Everyone have a lovely day. Take care, everyone.